Hello guys, welcome to a quick little video explaining some things about team fighting in light of the recent OTBs and some people complaining about a lack of skill level and stuff like that. I wanted to put some resources out there to help people learn a bit more, hopefully get a little bit better, get some higher quality CQs going. So the background footage is a Valkyrie CQ from a little while ago. Don't pay too much attention to it. I don't have the editing skills to put together a montage of perfect examples about what I'm talking. So it's just background footage. Mainly listen to my voice and you'll be dandy. Um, just want to quickly say that these tips are somewhat subjective, so don't take them as absolute fact. Think about it yourself, think critically, and yeah, just use it as a resource for your own benefit, and we'll see where we end up. I'm going to be giving you 3 tips for the team as a whole in a team fight, so you can better understand what you should be doing to contribute to that. You can better understand what's going on, and then I'll give you 3 individual tips about how you can control your own ship in order to assist your team in the team fight. Without further ado, let's get into that. First tip for the overall team is picking your fights wisely. And this is mainly during the early and mid game portions of the game. In the late game, you tend to fight over one base, and it's just the whole team versus the whole team. Nothing that interesting there. But early to mid game is all about numbers. If you have more numbers than the enemy, you should be playing aggressive. You should push into them, like prevent them from grouping, prevent them from doing what they want to do, just get them on the run. A retreating team always loses people. It's inevitable. So try to push down as long as you still have good positioning, which we'll get to in a second, and you have a numbers advantage. Go take that fight. Like, don't hesitate. Get in there. And even during a fight, even if you started with equal numbers, if you're in a good position, you kill a few of them, start pushing in. Don't let them get the mats off. Don't just sit still. Try to push when you're ahead. So push your advantages. On the flip side, obviously, if you're behind or if you just see that a fight is unwinnable before it started, try not to take that fight. If you're defending a base and you see 3 people coming towards you, just get out, save your life. It's more important. You can then go help your team elsewhere rather than being in a pod for 60 seconds. So pick your fights wisely. If you're ahead, then push your advantage. If you're not ahead, then try to figure out a way to avoid giving too much to the opponent. Second tip, how to do positioning. You've probably heard it a lot during team fights, people yelling at you that we should be grouped up, stay together, stay grouped, all of that good stuff. Why do we do that? It's very simple. Most of the DPS in this game is the blaster. Blaster is by far the highest DPS item, and every ship has it. A lot of ships don't have other good sources of damage. So what you essentially want to do with your team's positioning during a fight is you want to make it so that your team can shoot more blasters at the enemy than the enemy can shoot at you. The epitome of this would obviously be to just all sit literally on top of each other. In that case, whenever one enemy steps up, all 25 of you can blaster him, so that would be perfect. However, because AoE items exist, specifically in this case rockets and stun dome would be very nasty. You don't want to literally sit on top of each other. But as a team, you should always be looking, how do I get to a position where my team can shoot more blasters at the enemy than the enemy can shoot at me at any given time. So try not to walk too far forward, because the enemy will get more blasters on you than you can get on them, since you're on your own. And if you're too far in the back, then you can't contribute any of your blasters to the enemy. So that's giving the enemy an advantage, essentially. Then the third tip for the overall team is focus fire. I don't think I need to explain why focus fire is important. Obviously, if you can kill an individual target, you're taking away a bit of the sustain and or DPS of the enemy, depending on what you killed. The question is, though, what do you focus? And there's a lot of different philosophies, like you can kill the damage dealers first, you can kill the healers first. Generally, you'd like to kill the NGs first, but they tend to be further to the back, so it's difficult. My main advice here is to just shoot who is easiest to shoot. If I need to call targets, I will call whoever my team currently is in a position where they can the most players in my team can immediately shoot that person without having to chase after him. So I generally just call the person that's closest to the center of my team. And also, maybe a bit brutal, but try to kill the weaker players. Those that don't have the fast reactions to get out when they see they start getting focused. So, yeah. Try to take the easy kills instead of going for the higher value but way more difficult kills. That's my recommendation. This is a very subjective one. Just make sure that your whole team, as much as possible, is shooting one target. And as a side note, AoE damage gets split up. So try to focus fire. If you have a lot of AoE in your team, it's better used on people that aren't in the middle of their of a big group of players, but a bit more on their own. So the AoE doesn't spread as much, and you actually have good bursting potential. So be aware of that. With those tips out of the way, we're now going to look at 3 individual tips. So this is more for one player. How do I control my own ship in a team fight? So tip number 1 is to spam your items as much as possible. Team fights are a long, drawn-out affair. Usually take a few minutes for a fight to finish, which means you can get several uses of your items in. So use them as much as possible. Get your items out. Now, obviously you don't want to waste your items. You don't want to just put your RD when you're not taking damage or when you're full health. You don't want to waste your trap if it's not going to achieve anything, or waste your stun when it's not going to achieve anything. You do want to use a little bit of brain power behind your items, but generally, you'd rather use an item too soon than too late. For defensive items especially, like if you start taking damage and you're not really sure that you're not gonna take a whole lot more damage very quickly, just put your RD. Don't wait until you're 50%. Just put your fucking RD. Uh, yeah, it's just a case of better safe than sorry. And your DPS items, the exact same thing applies. Just get them out, pump out as much damage as possible, because that's how you contribute as much to the team as possible. And that way, even if you die, at least you got your items out. So you've already contributed what you have to contribute for the most part. The second tip is back to the positioning side of things. And it's what I like to call cycling. Different people may call it different things. But essentially, this is the act of constantly moving backwards and forwards during a team fight. Constantly moving into the front line and back out of the front line. And there are 2 main reasons why you should do this. The first is something that 1v1 players will be very familiar with. Essentially, ships in Pirate Galaxy have an acceleration phase. If you're sitting still, there's a small delay before your ship starts moving. If you're already moving, that delay isn't there. So a moving ship is faster to respond to needing to back off or needing to push in, for that matter, than a ship that's sitting still. So you should always be moving. Why do you move back and forth and not like side to side? Because by moving back and forth, you make the enemy's target fire very difficult. Because 1 second you'll be in the front, and the enemy is like, oh, we can kill that guy, and then you're already moving back. So by the time your name gets called out by the enemy team, you're probably already moving back, and if they then try to focus fire you, they'll feed into your team, because they'll overextend. So try to just move back and forth during a team fight, and I shall smoothly segue into my third point. Where you should be moving back and forth, like how far forward you want to do, is based on your lineup. Don't just look at your own ship, look at your ship's place in the lineup. So, for example, a Marlstone is a ship that isn't a hyper tank. It's not like a lava or an actual tank or a black granite or a punari, but it does have a shield. It has reasonable HP. It's not a bad frontliner. If your ship has a lot of squishy people that want to sit back, you as the Marlstone should be quite far forward to give a bit of cover, a bit of meat shield for those squishy people. Conversely, if you have a lot of tank ships already in your lineup, a lot of dedicated tank ships, you as a Marlstone can sit a bit further back, more towards the middle of your team. So, where you want to sit, and with sit, again, I mean where you want to move back and forth, how far forward that backwards forwards movement is going to take place, depends more on your ship's position in your team than it does on just your ship itself. So keep that in mind. Look at what the team has, look at what the team needs, and base your own positioning on that. And that's it. I hope these tips were helpful. I hope you enjoyed. And if you have any questions, you know where to find me. And yeah, I'll catch you on the next one. I have no idea how to end my videos. Bye.